Welcome to Leading the Pack. My name is Lydia Frey. I'm your host.
My name is Octavia Stensen, and I'm your co-host.
And today we have with us Angela Lloyd, who is our very esteemed guest of honor today.
Thank you both for having me. We're so happy to have you here today, Angela. We're just so excited to hear about you and your experience inside of juniors and outside of juniors and just everything that has gone into, like, just your whole life story, basically.
Yeah, we want to get into it. I think we definitely want to highlight the fact that all three of us have won Best Junior Handler at Westminster. And Angie, I know you've gone on to judge Best Junior Handler at Westminster, which is a pretty cool full circle moment.
That was an incredible full circle moment.
Octavia, you want to start with you and tell us about yourself and your accolades, since you are our most recent winner of the title.
Yes, so I went Best Junior at Westminster in 2024, just last year, showing my Norwegian Buchen Pineapple, who I bred and whelped myself. I've been showing dogs for 10 plus years. I'm currently working as an assistant and also getting a college degree on top of that as well.
My name is Lydia Frey. I won Best Junior Handler at Westminster in 2015 with my Bedlington Terrier, Tony. I did not breed Tony. He was bred by Lamb's Bedlington Terriers, but I raised and trained and showed him and went on to special him a bit. He became a national specialty winner. And I have been involved with dogs for 15 years. I still actively show. I mainly breed pointers now, but I still have Bedlington and the occasional standard Schnauzer runs around my house. I graduated from High Point University back in 2021.
I'm Angela Lloyd, and oh my golly, 1998, ladies. I was Best Junior Handler at Westminster Kennel Club. Seems like a very long time ago. The dog I showed was an English Springer Spaniel. Her call name was Leica. Registered name was Champion Telltale's Leica Picture. She was bred by Carmen Bursey and Dolores Strike of Telltale English Springer Spaniels at that time. And I started in purebred dogs as at birth, if you can classify it that way. My father was already breeding and showing German Shepherd dogs. And even to the point where he was doing a lot of tracking work, obedience work, our local police departments he would donate dogs to. Years prior, he would even do a lot of search and rescue things for anything in the local vicinity. Any teams that were going out, he would assist in those. But beyond that, as I grew up and got older, I showed a lot of interest in the dogs. I learned how to walk, hanging on to my German Shepherd, Havana, as a kiddo. So dogs were obviously, they're just in my blood. And my dad was going to dog shows. I spent time growing up with him as a single father. My mother he divorced when I was pretty young. So I shared time with both of them, but spent my time mostly with my dad. And so that meant I went to dog shows with him. And probably around 7 years old, he finally caved in and said, all right, you can take this one in at a veteran class for a specialty show. So I did. And he realized at that point that I was serious about wanting to show. So for my eighth birthday, he was kind of smart and gifted me a Pembroke Welsh Corgi by the name of Sugar Bear.
My God.
And who was incidentally, Octavia, bred in Washington State.
Oh my gosh, how cool.
By the Great Fox Meadow Pembroke Welsh Corgi Kennel.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was my first show dog. He taught me a lot. He was not the easiest dog to show. He wasn't a whole lot like your normal Pembroke that stands for attention, and he kind of got bored with that quickly. Most likely because this 8-year-old girl tried to overtrain him and had no idea what she was doing.
I think that's the unfortunate fate of all show dogs.
I completely, That's exactly how my first show dog was too. But we did venture off a lot of weekends, and I was showing him myself as an 8-year-old, and won my first Group 1, the herding group, at a little show in West Virginia, in Clarksburg, West Virginia. So that was it. It kind of went from there. I remember the judge said to my father, she's not even old enough for juniors yet.
That's fantastic.
She had asked my dad that day, did she show juniors today? How'd she do? Sorry, ma'am, she's not old enough. Ultimately, I didn't put every point on him. at the time, luckily in our area here outside of the Washington, D.C. metro area, George Alston was teaching weekly handling classes, if you can imagine, at our local 4-H. So I was lucky enough to be a young girl in his weekly handling class in Gaithersburg, Maryland. In the relationship of, getting taught underneath him in the classes and things like that, George and Marianne and their daughter Jen, who was showing at the time with them, took Bear to a lot of dog shows, and I have a great picture of Jenny Alston winning a major with my Sugar Bear dog.
That's fantastic.
So it's all good. Now, beyond that, juniors came along and I turned 10 and off I went. I started with my Corgi. By that time, 2 years later, he was getting really tired of being shown. And I had developed, my dad at the time was also teaching handling classes at Catoctin Kennel Club. And so junior handling classes. People like Paul Kloss went to them, and Rebecca Kloss, and probably many others that I'm not thinking of at the moment. I mean, there's people that I can remember that aren't even really showing anymore, but were active for a while. I developed at that point in time a love for sporting dogs. And I fashioned myself to be like wanting an English setter so bad it wasn't even funny. But, here I am, 10, 11, 12, and my dad's like, now you have your Corgi. And then when I was around 13, this dachshund handler from this region, who was a great dachshund person, breeder, owner, handler, breed handler, great hound person for many decades, Bobby Fowler and his wife Jane, kind of took me under their wing and said, hey, little girl, you want to show a dachshund in the group today? We need help. So that became a little distraction for a while, and I got a little dachshund from them and showed her in juniors and things like that, and qualified for Westminster with her for my first time.
What? I can't imagine that was a popular juniors breed at that time.
No, I think that there were some other dogs in the mix. I had a German Shorthair Pointer for a little while that I showed. So she may not have at that time been the only one that was, helping me get those Best Junior wins at the time that were needed for qualifying for Westminster. But I remember the very first time I did show, I showed my little dachshund, my mini wire, who is still the foundation bitch of my breeding line ever since, and mini wires to this day. My very first time in juniors at Westminster. And I did not look the year up to tell you.
Okay, it's okay, you're going to pass. What was her name?
I was around 13. Her name was Champion Farm Meadows Bear With Me, MW. And her name was Jeannie, and she was a red mini wire. And her name was Jeannie because Jane Fowler called her Jeannie with the light blonde hair, because she didn't have a very good coat. It was a little soft. Not too soft, but a little soft.
A little soft. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then when I was about 15 or so, my dad said, okay, you can get your English setter or whatever it is you might like. You're of age to be grooming, because he wasn't going to do the grooming on it. And you can learn. So I wrote some letters to some prominent breeders, the Setter Ridge lady and the Brasswind lady.
I just want to emphasize this, a letter.
Yes, this was back way before cell phones.
So yes.
And I don't think the World Wide Web existed until after I was out of high school.
Right, that's what I would just want to emphasize. Like, you wrote letters to these breeders and mailed them and was like, hi.
Yeah. You know how if you made a mistake, you'd have to rewrite it. But you can't let them know you made a mistake. So pre-Google, okay? I am pre-Google.
Right. She probably did a draft first.
Many, way more than one.
So you sent your dreams in the mail.
Sent my dreams away, and they came back as, nothing right now. So I thought, okay, I don't know what to do. And I think my dad mentioned it to maybe George and Marianne Alston at one point. My dream of having a Harrier sporting dog to show in junior.
Fantastic.
And George had shown dogs for Celie Florence for a long time, and Dolores Strigg, who were Telltale English Springer Spaniels. And he got in touch with Celie Florence on our behalf. And next thing I knew, I was being offered this champion show dog out of like my all-time favorite English Springer Spaniel, like a daughter of Royal Stewarts. So that was that. And we had a successful career in junior handling.
Was she liver and white?
She was liver and white. Yes.
Amazing.
So I, had her she was already a champion. Robin Novak had finished her. And I guess that would have been like 15, maybe 16 at that point when she arrived. And she was like 2 years old.
That's awesome.
So we had that length of time to really get to know each other before our dreams came true.
Wow, that's awesome. Can you maybe tell us about, like, obviously juniors when you showed in juniors was a very different experience. You had much different classes and different qualification than we have now. Also, you got to show in the garden from start to finish. We didn't have the now judging in one location during the day and then just at night judging in the garden. So that I know was such different process with all the spectators on the floor and
Absolutely.
And the craziness. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about, that experience of qualifying and what to us today would seem like giant junior entries, and then going to the garden in what to us still would seem like an insane environment.
At that point in time in the mid 90s to late 90s, the junior entries were double or triple what we see today. And you would have, we had 4 different classes. So you had novice junior, open junior, novice senior, open senior. The age range was from 10 years old to 18. And so you wouldn't have the luxury of, say, what the master class is today, where your kids that have really consistently been the winners get to move out of the way. Right. So that you can get to Best Junior to achieve your goal towards trying to make your qualifications for AKC and or Westminster at this point. So all of those factors, are quite different. The only thing we were really qualifying for at that time was Westminster, because the AKC National Invitational, as we know it now, was not happening.
Right.
That didn't come until much later on. There was, I think they called it the Pedigree Junior Handling National Championship or something like that. I would have to go back into the other room and grab the photo and look at it. But Pedigree Dog Foods at that time was sponsoring many of the dog shows, just like you see today where Pro Plan picks them up as a sponsorship or Royal Canin is sponsoring them. And they did really a great job of sourcing shows that they were big sponsors at and making them junior invitational shows. So at the time I was competing, they had it broken up where the junior classes, wherever they had designated them as a qualifier show, were competing to attend a invitational to compete again, whoever won that, going to the World Dog Show. And I think that they were it was either 10 or 8 shows that were designated for the open junior class and then for the open senior class. And the open senior class designations, so like the qualifying shows for the open senior classes, would then advance you to this qualifying event where you'd compete, and the first place winner would go on to Crux.
It's not an invitation. So it's the winner of Royal Canin, as we know it, the AKC National Championship. That is an invitation to Crufts.
Right.
The World Dog Show, we don't have a qualifier for. There is no U.S. representative, like, qualifier in.
Okay, but at one point there was.
There was. But without the Pedigree Invitational, that's now dissolved. So now the way to go, like the way I went, the World Dog Show.
You went.
Yes, okay. The way you go now is the World Dog Show has open entry for juniors to qualify into the final.
So you have to go to the World Dog Show, compete in the prelim classes to then get into the final.
To get an invitation in. So that's what I did, is I went and showed in the prelim and qualified my way in. And then from there, you then have to compete against all the country representatives, plus anyone else that's qualified in, and then make a top 10, and then qualify from there. And then they judge it.
So cool.
It's
incredible.
that was when I did it when I first won Westminster. That was my mom asked me, she said, well, what next? Because I come from horse shows, and horse shows, like every championship follows with another championship. Yes. And I was like, the only big show that I knew about other than Royal Canin, which I had already qualified for, and Crofts, which I knew I couldn't go to because I had to be the representative for, was the World Show. And so we looked up how to do it, and I just opened junior entries in and then just qualified my way through.
People definitely don't know about that, because honestly, until this very moment now, I didn't know that.
It's just hard. I remember I went there, and the first day I didn't get, every day they would give 3 tickets out to a finals pass. And I remember I didn't qualify. We would compete through prelim, judge, and then compete in the finals ring, and then they'd give out 3 tickets. And I remember I didn't get a ticket the first day, and I was so heartbroken and stressed because my dog was so jet lagged from the trip and struggling. And my mom was like, it's okay, we've got 2 more days of competition. And we came back and qualified the next day.
Get into final 10, basically? Is that what?
You have to qualify through, and then if you get through to essentially the final round where all the country representatives are, then those get all narrowed down to a top 10, and then those compete for Best Junior.
Well, the beauty of that video was that Tony had a couple days to rest.
Tony had a couple days. Time. And my mom was really smart, and that year the World Show was in Italy, which is super dog friendly if you've ever been. And my mom was like, it's okay. My mom was like, we are just going to keep him awake, like you do with a kid that's not on the time sheet. And so my mom was like, we're just going to keep him awake. So we took him, I remember we took him to the plaza in Milan with us for dinner. And we just kept him awake until 10 p.m. at night. And he was so tired. And my mom was like, he's got to do the time change. He's got to stay awake now so that he'll sleep later. Just kept him awake. And kept walking him around, and then we got back to the hotel, and he slept, and then he adjusted over, and he was fine the next day.
They're so resilient. I mean, so much more resilient than we think.
Yeah, it was wild, but my mom was like, he's just not adjusting to the time change. We have to get him to adjust. It's like a baby. You got to just keep him awake. We got to make him adjust.
Well, that speaks volumes about her animal husbandry.
Only my mom would be like, it's fine. We'll just take the dog to dinner.
Yeah, just take him to dinner.
We'll just take him to dinner. I remember. And she was like, and she ordered him a steak at dinner. I vividly remember. We were in the shopping plaza in Milan, and she ordered him a steak at dinner. And he sat with us at the little bistro, and he ate
him up.
She was like, don't sleep, buddy. Stay awake.
We need to see photos. We need photographic or video evidence.
We have, I have tons of photos of him all throughout this trip. It was the best. Photos of him everywhere, because you're like, here he is in front of the gelato shop, and here he is. It is really interesting how when Pedigree dissolved that
nobody stepped forward.
Sponsorships or anything got up.
Yeah.
No, it's a really great idea.
Yeah, it's a wonderful scheme, and it was a big event, because basically what they did was, they took their junior class winners and their senior class winners from around the country, brought them in, all expenses paid for them and a chaperone, to whatever their location was that was designated for the year. I know when I went, we were in Boston. A couple years prior to that, Carissa had gone, and they were somewhere in California.
And did you guys take your own dogs to that, or did you have dogs that you showed?
Yes, you could bring your own dog.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Although it was probably much easier to fly dogs then.
Yeah. Very different. I mean, when I went, it was my dog got driven.
Right.
I think I flew because when I qualified for that event, and so when I went to that event was the winter of 97. I had graduated high school in June of 97. Right. I was having my first semester of college, so I didn't miss my classes. My dog went with my friends to the show, and I flew from whatever my last day of class was, from wherever I was up to Boston, and someone picked me up, and I went and saw my dog and played with her and groomed her up, and then that, But Pedigree did a great job, because they got everybody together, and they took us around and took us on a day trip and sightseeing tour. That's where those little photos of the kids dressed in the jumpsuits come in. Our little romper outfits that we had. Like Anne-Marie Cuvas puts up almost every year a photograph on Facebook of a group of us at that Boston show. You see a lot of recognizable faces in that photo from today's world. And then, we all have dinner together. So it's sort of like the experience at Crufts where they were putting all the kids together for dinner the night before. I don't know if they're still doing that. They did that when I went. And then the next day you're off competing under a mystery judge. Obviously only a mystery until you get there. And it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. What can I say? I was lucky in that respect to have been there for those opportunities that were being given to the young people of the sport in that time. And it is something that I think that should be happening again. That would be really great. Moving on from that, I not long after I was Best Junior at Westminster, I feel like one of the last people that might have done the Crufts trip and the World Dog Show trip was Nicholas Urbanik. That might have been around 2000, and that might have been the last time the World Dog Show stuff happened with the American juniors.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I know Dylan Kipp.
Okay.
Did all
that was after.
So that was after. But yeah, it is interesting how some of the things like the Crufts experience is a little bit set up. The World Show is a little bit less set up, but I also think that is now. I think FCI and AKC are getting a little bit further away from working together, so I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know if there's just not that integration just because of things. I don't know. I think it's so great what Pedigree did and all that. Who was the judge the year that you showed?
Yeah, so my qualifying win was at Old Dominion Kennel Club under Wendy Kellerman, name you may know. And then when I got to the Pedigree Invitational, the judge was Patricia Lawrence.
Okay, that is very, very cool. That's very cool. Who judged your year at Westminster?
Oh, the junior showmanship preliminaries that year, I had Donald Sturts, our very own Westminster Kennel Club president now.
You got for some reason.
Oh, cool. Baby, I had a younger version, not baby Donald Sturts, but yes. Because I don't know. I mean, I still see him as a young man. So I don't think
he ages, really?
I don't.
Right.
He just stays right where he is.
And I think I want to be him when I grow up. So in a way, and actually that brings me to another fun fact. At one point on the Dog News 10 questions years and years ago, once I was professional handling, I was asked them, and one of the questions at the time was, if you could be a member of the opposite sex, who would you be? And my answer was Donald Sturts or David Fitzpatrick. Actually, mine might have been also, and I think I picked 3. Michael Pitts was another one.
Those are 3 great choices. I can't. Donald Sturts or David. I mean, first of all, now you've picked two people that are one prior Westminster Best in Show judge and one soon to be Westminster Best.
Soon to be. Yeah, it's funny. And I think,
and it would not surprise me if Michael Pitts one day judged Westminster Best in Show. If he went down that path of judging.
Certainly qualified.
Certainly qualified. So I think you've got the trifecta there.
You definitely do. That's an awesome choice. I love those so much. So iconic of you. So I want to maybe, this is not really segueing away from it, but kind of rewinding the clock back to before ever winning Best Junior at Westminster, and really, like, did you create a goal for yourself? Did you just happen to qualify for Westminster and then show? Like, were there any expectations for you? Were there any, this is my goal, I want to do this? Or was it just like, I qualified and I'm here now and I just happened to win, because I have kids as well too.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it can be very organic like that. I think I know for myself is that my father was very competitive and he didn't push me in a way that was too far. But because I showed so much interest in the dog showing, he embraced it and provided those opportunities to be in those places so that, like going to the George Austin clinics and handling classes as 8, 9, and 10-year-old. That wasn't like normal at the time. And normal's probably not a good word, because it could be anybody's normal. I just dove into the dog shows and put my efforts there because it was being rewarded in those ways, because I was starting with gaining more experience through handling classes, learning more specifics on how to work with my dogs, and then those little tricks and anything that was taught to me where I was able to apply it were being sought as a positive thing that the judges are seeing, and so I'm advancing in that respect. So as I worked harder and practiced more, it became more that I was rewarded in prizes, because, you walk in the breed ring as a young kid and you're like, okay, here's my dog, but it really has nothing to do with you. You go in the juniors ring and it's all about what you're doing with your techniques and your handling skills, and whether you're paying attention or not, whether you're walking in the right place on the mat or not, all the little details. So if you can pay, I think at that time, that was what my focus was, in learning more the detail-oriented, the 1, 2, 3s, the basics, to create a foundation for success.
That I absolutely adore that. And then you kind of almost like, there's no right way to do it, really, but it is awesome that you took the time to like find the foundations and really commit your time. Everybody's path is different, but I love that you really... I also see it in the same way. It's like, well, I'm being rewarded for doing good at this, so why wouldn't I continue doing this?
But I will tell you, every single time I won or lost, the question I was asked on the way home was, what did you do wrong, or what did you do right? But it was always what was wrong first, so that you could build on it, so that you were able to recognize it and maybe not make the same mistake twice. So self-criticism in a way, because, probably not a set of way people want to learn now, but also it's what makes you strive harder, try harder, keep going further. And as far as the building blocks, you can't climb a ladder by skipping rods on the ladder. You have to go one at a time. Otherwise, you're going to end up falling, or the ladder's going to tilt, or you're going to break. You have to have those building blocks to be able to get to the top.
Absolutely. And I love the self-criticism as well. I know we are our hardest self-critic, but it is nice to always, especially as a junior, step out of the ring and think about, what did I like about that experience, and what can I do differently next time? I think that's where, and this is not a criticism towards anybody, but just, even myself personally, I dealt with it in the past of like stepping out of the ring and just being like, yeah, that's pretty good. And it's like, there is always something that you can do better, especially in juniors. And it is so subjective as well, but like being like, okay, what can I change for next time? Especially like at 18, 15, 18, whatever it is that your age is at, like there's always something you can change at that age to be a more savvy handler. And so always stepping out and thinking, what can I do better next time?
I don't want to say it's the mindset of a winner, but I do think it is definitely the mindset of someone who wants to continually grow themselves, is someone who looks at each experience and says, what could I have maybe changed or done differently or grown from? Like, how could I grow from that experience? Whether it's, I remember when at Westminster, I only showed at Westminster and juniors once, and I remember in my preliminary asking my mentors what I could have done better. Even though I qualified for the final, I remember asking them what I could have done better, and they gave me critiques of what I could have done better. And I remember I told Octavia, told me that I had brushed up the tail really aggressively and fast on my dog on the table. And I still remember this so vividly, thinking in Best Junior, do not brush up the tail fast. Gently hold the tail. Do not do that again. But I think that's a huge part of it is, every moment, every step of the way, recognizing, there's never going to be a time, in my opinion, where everything's perfect, because that's just not human. So it's always going to be a growing or learning experience of, there could have been something that I could have done.
Absolutely.
That I could have done. And, we work with animals. They're not going to always have their best days. And it's our jobs as the handler to essentially compensate on when they're not having a great day, to make it up for them.
Exactly.
That, I think, is a huge part of it is, okay, they're not super excited, or they're not feeling good, or they're maybe nervous about the camera in the corner or whatever. What are we doing actively about that from minute to minute that is going to help them to the next minute? And I really think that is such a key to being a winner and having a winning mindset, is actively thinking and progressing with the dogs throughout the situation and in competition, whether it's day to day, show to show, even minute to minute, even round to round, as we've experienced. You make a cut. Okay, I'm going to the next cut. I need to make sure my dog, is better over its front. I need to make sure my dog really uses itself when it moves. What am I doing to promote that, to bring that out?
The most important thing to remember as a handler, and even at a young age, is that your dog is not a robot. And, it's part of your job as a handler to build that relationship with the dog, so if they're having a bad day.
Yep.
If they've, eaten their food, not eaten their food, if they've gone potty, not gone potty, if they drank their water, didn't drink their water, all kinds of little things, the basics. It's the building blocks, the 101s that you can't skip them. And I think that's what, given the opportunity, juniors can absolutely learn. It's what's going to bring you forward in dog and animal husbandry, and see you to the future. Absolutely. As a breeder, an owner, or a handler.
Absolutely. And I think that husbandry, bringing that up, is also a key point in dogs that does not get emphasized enough in junior showmanship, especially because it's like, what does that have to do with how good I show my dog in the ring? If you think about at a big young age.
Truly. One point I'd like to make with that, it's a great thought, because the AKC junior showmanship scheme is not about taking care of your dog.
Sure.
They're providing you an opportunity to be in classes where you can show them and that kind of thing. But there's definitely areas there where you need a mentor, or you need your breeder or your parent or someone to come along and help you with those topics. Now, when I was young, you definitely needed somebody, or you'd have to get a book. Now you can sort of, fake your way through it, or, deep dive and learn in with our lovely Google or other platforms to find out something fast. Still, and it was one thing I always thought as a kid, like, gosh, it's so crazy. We're always going to the veterinarian. But you have to have a great relationship with your veterinarians, because they're your doggy's doctors. And, they play a key part in all of this as well.
Yes.
Huge part in our endeavors. So it takes a village.
And that's where we're going to end part 1 of this interview with Angie. When we get back, we're going to talk more about juniors, how it's changed, where it's going, and Angie's own personal journey, including her incredible Westminster Best Junior show with Hickory. Thanks for listening to Leading the Pack, the Show Safe podcast.